Are you tired of always drying out that pork tenderloin? After today's video, you'll never go back to your old ways, so get ready to take some notes, and thanks for tuning into the very first episode of Diversiteats. Okay guys, so the first thing that we gotta do is take off this silver skin right here. Reason being, it's not fat, it's actually like a connective tissue, and it's never gonna break down no matter how long you cook it. So we go ahead and take it out with a nice little sawing motion. Notice I started about halfway through. I'm gonna flip it around, and now I have a little flap to grab onto. I'm gonna do the same thing. Put your knife underneath. If you happen to take off a little bit of meat, the good meat, that's okay, but try to take off just this silver skin. There we go. I got a little piece left over, so I'm going to take this off carefully, just like that, and that's it. So it's a pretty lean cut, so all this fat that you see on here, we want to leave all that on there. That's flavor, you know, and it doesn't have too much of it, so we're going to leave it alone. I'm going to go ahead and season now. Got some salt. I'm going to put some wood smoked salt and some fresh ground black pepper, some curry powder, some fresh ground chili powder, coconut sugar, and a little oil. Then I'm going to get in there, give it a nice massage, put some love into it, get all those seasonings evenly distributed, and most importantly, we're trying to dissolve the salt into the flesh so it's not falling out in our pan. Okay, I'm going to pull out one sheet of cling wrap, pretty big piece. Keep it as straight as possible. And I'm going to pull out another one, overlapping it by at least a few inches. That way they stick together, and now you have one really big piece to work with. Tenderloin in the center, a little closer to yourself. Looks like a cow tongue. Go ahead and roll it over, tuck it in. Try to get out as much air as you can, but don't stress out about it either. Carefully roll it, keep those ends straight, and by keeping them straight, they'll be easier to tie in just a second. So roll, get the air out, keep the ends straight, and there we go. Looks pretty good. Okay, starting at one end, we're gonna pinch and compress that tenderloin into itself. Get a good grip and roll it several times. You'll feel it start to tighten up, and that's what you want. Then we're going to tie it off with a simple knot. Keep it loose until you have it right up against the tenderloin, and then tighten it. Pick it up by the other end, give it a few shakes, that way it kind of falls into itself. Again, we're trying to compress it. Other side, pinch and push. Pinch and push, get a nice good grip. Twist it a little bit to get it started, and then we're gonna roll it again. So same way, the more you roll it, the tighter it's gonna get. You want it nice and tight, and then go ahead and seal it off. Simple knot, push it up against the tenderloin and tighten. And there we go. Looks like a Jimmy Dean sausage. Okay, so what happens sometimes is that thicker part of the tenderloin, whenever it comes out of the water, it's a little more bulky than that smaller side. So to prevent that and keep it a little more even all the way across, I like to put some twine on it, kind of like trussing it, but except I'm not using one long piece. You can just use a few shorter pieces like this. Makes it a little easier if you're not too familiar with that procedure. But again, just simple knots, and I'm not tightening it too much, just enough to slightly compress it. That way it doesn't puff up. So I really only need to do this side, not the entire thing. So that's 3, and I think I'll put one more after this one. Alright. So that's it right there. I think this will be okay. So again, this is going to keep a more uniform shape after it's cooked. just like that. Alright, let's get a pot of water on the stove, turn it on, and get it boiling. Once it's boiling, we're going to carefully drop in our tenderloin, put the lid on, and turn the heat off. Put your timer for 30 minutes. Meanwhile, let's grab a knife, hone it real quick. I'm gonna grab an apple and take off 2 cheeks. Then take off the smaller ends as well. Get rid of the core. Stand it up and cut some slices down. Don't get your finger. Kind of use like an upside down U grip. Lay them down. Get some slices. The more of an incline that your knife is, the less friction, so not too many pieces will stick. Here I had a few stick. That's alright. Not a big deal. Turn it sideways. And there goes your dice. Smaller ends as well. Lay them down. Flip them back over, get some strips, cut them crosswise, and there's your dice again. Onions, I leave the root end on, take off the top, and that gives you a flat surface to stand it up without it rolling. Cut it in half, get rid of the outer layer. Don't worry about the thinnest one, I go with the next one. It's not that much waste and it saves you a lot of time and hassle. Get rid of the little hairs, these little scraps. And I'm going to put some horizontal cuts. The amount of cuts, I guess, depends on how high your onion is. And then I'm going to put some vertical cuts, and notice that root end is keeping everything together for us, but essentially now it's like a grid pattern. So now I'll just cut it crosswise, and there's your dice. Pretty uniform cut. And then all you should be left with is this little root end that we started out with. Okay, 30 minutes later, open it up. Look at all that steam. It's still pretty hot even after 30 minutes off the heat. Take out your tenderloin, put it on a plate or something, that way you can catch the juices. Cut off one end, and then also cut off the twine. At this point though, it's still really hot, so you might want to grab a glove or a towel, because I'm burning my fingers right here. Alright, whenever you have the twine off, grab the other side, lift it up, and it'll slide right out. So most of these cling wraps, they melt around 220 to 250 degrees if they're home use, but boiling water is 212, so that's why it does not melt. Okay, we have a thermometer. I'm going to go ahead and check the temperature. After 30 minutes, a 1 pound tenderloin comes up to about mid 140s, which is damn near perfect, because we're about to raise it up just a few more in our pan. So let's get a pan really hot. We just want to brown the outside. We don't want to cook the inside. Let's put some high temperature oil. This is grapeseed. And pat off the excess moisture so it's not popping in the oil. And then put some color on it. Again, we just want to brown the outside, so get it really hot, high temperature oil. If you're not familiar with it, look up the Maillard reaction. Drain off the excess oil, throw in our onions and apples that we cut up. And we're just going to keep them moving for, I don't know, a minute or two. Just let them soak up all of those residual juices and flavor that was in the pan from the tenderloin. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead with about a cup or so of some apple cider. You can even use apple juice if you don't have apple cider, anything like that. And notice how hot it is. It's already boiling. That's okay. That's what you want, because you want it to reduce down. I'm going to go ahead and season it with some salt and some freshly ground black pepper. You can put more spices if you'd like. Get creative with it. Try other things. This is just the most basic though, to give you some inspiration. So stir it around. After about 5 minutes or so, notice the color change and most of the liquid is gone. I'm going to go ahead with those juices that came out of our tenderloin when it was wrapped, as well as some heavy whipping cream, about a cup or so, probably about as much, the same amount actually as the apple cider that you put. and go ahead and stir it up. Again, notice how it's bubbling. It's still really, really hot. That's what you want. You want to evaporate the excess moisture to thicken it up. Go ahead and throw in some fresh herbs. I chose rosemary because it goes well with the apples and the pork. Kind of coat it so it starts to release its flavor, and just let it simmer down until it's a nice sauce, thick consistency. Tenderloin has rested. I'm going to go ahead and cut it at least 1/2 inch slices. You don't want to cut them too thin. The thinner they are, the quicker they go cold. Just remember that. You want to use the entire length of your blade. Don't be hacking at it. Don't crush it. Let that sharp edge do the work for you when you're slicing. This is just a chef's knife, but you can also get a slicer if you'd like. And there you go. Perfectly cooked. Have a nice contemporary style plate right here. Just threw some greens down. A few slices of apple that I got from the mandolin for 2 things. Of course, for flavor, and then also to set the meat on. That way they can catch any juices before they hit the plate and get runny. A few pieces there. I like to work in odd numbers, so I put 3. 5 would be a little overkill, and 1 is, I don't know, just not my thing. I don't like being too much of a minimalist like that. Alright, that apple cider cream that we made, I got mine nice and reduced so it's not so runny. And then I'm going to put some herbs, a little bit of rosemary just so they know that that flavor is in the dish. And then I'm also going to garnish with some fresh oregano. So that's it. That's a very simple dish right there, literally under an hour and under $10, believe it or not. So get creative with it, put your favorite sides, and let me know what you make. I'm on Instagram at HTXJD, and I'm starting up a food trailer this year that is HTX Street Food, or Houston Street Food. Check us out, tag me in your pictures, share this video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff, and let me know what you make. Thanks for watching.